synonymous with Australian rules football and of course the Geelong Football Club. But of course, there have been so many other sports that have taken place here, including Speedway, and that's going to be the focus of this edition of Kardinia Park Chronicles. But before we do touch on it, let's have a look at the history of Kardinia Park. Of course, we started way back in the 1870s when it was designated as Crown land, and 60 acres was given to the people of Geelong, and it ran all the way up to Kilgore Street before the rail line ran through in 1876. 1903, we had a zoo and we had an elephant in the middle of Geelong. We had a lake as well, and it was a real gathering place for families here in the city, and it still continues to be a gathering place. The 1940s saw the arrival of football, of course, with the Cats displaced from Corio Oval during World War II, and it's been their permanent home since 1944. Athletics, the Geelong gift, was ran here and was a key part of the athletics calendar. And of course, there was also your novelty races, people on bikes taking on horses. We saw it all here at Kardinia Park. But of course, it is now Speedway that we're going to focus on, and we're lucky enough to be joined today by Cal Mitchener and Ken Walker. Cal Mitchener, Ken Walker, thanks for joining us on the surface of Kardinia Park, GMHBA Stadium, but things have changed a little bit since the late 1920s, Mitch. The days of Speedway, a lot of people would hardly believe that there used to be a dirt track.
Well, Kardinia Park was really one of the forerunners that got it going in, well, it was probably the forerunner in Victoria until there was a Speedway elsewhere in the state. And so this was pretty famous back in the mid-20s.
Most speedways of that era were around a quarter of a mile, which is the size of a football oval, which that was about the genuine size for a speedway track.
400 metres.
400 metres, yeah, 440 yards is whatever they used to call it.
Yep.
So, yeah.
What sort of speeds would they get up to, Cal or Ken?
Only about 60 miles an hour, but
so that's about
being
95, 96.
Yeah, but being a small track, it looked awful quick, and it was pretty hard to get round because you're turning at all times. Actually, Ken won the Australian national title in 1980. He's me champ, mate.
Well, usually on Speedway, a typical race on a Speedway track is 3 or 4 laps, depending on its time. It used to be 3, now it'd be 4 laps, depending on the size. Standing start. The race would only take 1 minute, so you was only racing flat out for 1 minute. A Speedway bike has no brakes. You have no brakes at all, and that's usually, especially on the solos, had no gearbox either. They were just, on the later solos, you just straight drive. The moment you leave the starting line, it's all going to be over in about 1 minute. So, but you do 3 or 4 laps of the track, a lot can happen in that 1 minute.
How many bikes usually are you competing against?
4, usually 4. There's 4 bikes on the track at a time.
So Cal, what sort of events would have been held here on the Kardinia Park surface back in the late 20s and early 1930s? What would we have seen?
Well, it was all solo riding. They didn't, at that stage, they hadn't really, weren't brave enough to put sidecars on the Speedway, but there were some pretty good riders there was a rider from Colac that actually rode on this Speedway. I think his daughter wrote a book about it, but he was quite a champion, and he finished up riding all over the world.
Would have been a great era of being here at Kardinia Park and taking it all in. To both you, Ken and Cal, we really appreciate you sharing some memories of Speedway and of course the impact that Kardinia Park had on the building of the sport to what it became.